Hi, I'm Jody, and you're watching Beargrass Thunder. We're going to be doing our new series today, Beargrass Yardens, where we go through what anyone in Louisville can do in their backyard, even if they only have a shotgun lot. We have over 30 different species of flowers and 10 different crops growing on about a quarter acre. So it's an amazing opportunity to show what you can do, and let's get started. Alright, so our first plant that we're going to be looking at, this is a pretty tall one. It has big heart-shaped leaves, and if you look at the very top, there's a flower at the very top of this. And that's how I know that this is more than likely a sunflower. Now this sunflower hasn't bloomed yet, and this is actually from Injustice Square from our September videos. We were able to save the seeds from Injustice Square Park and Breonna's roots and plant a few sunflowers here. And eventually we're going to be saving the seeds and spreading this story and its legacy. One of the next plants we have is, if you have bad soil or you don't really know the quality, one thing that'll definitely grow is Kentucky's only native species of cactus, the eastern prickly pear. Kentucky has a native cactus, and so we've been able to take all the pads and be able to grow new cactus outside. It's been a lot of fun. Over here we have our raised bed. We really like the raised bed here, and we fill it with some good quality soil, and as you can see we got this big, it looks like a weed honestly, but this is actually corn, and this top part of the corn, that's going to be the corn cob. So once it gets bigger, it's going to start pollinating with the other corn, and we're going to start getting some actual ears of corn here. I love it. Further on back, this is my bonsai in training. This is a 3-year-old ash tree that I have a lot of fun with. This is a white ash, and something that's not really common in Kentucky anymore because of the emerald ash borer beetle. So this, it started as kind of like, I found this sapling, I knew it wasn't going to survive in the backyard because of mowing and everything else. And so I decided to turn it into something that hopefully I can turn into a safe outdoor version of this plant. I love it. Over here we have Mariah's rosebush, and we really like that. That started as a very tiny little stem, maybe 6 inches high, and over the course of about 4 months it has just become this really beautiful flower wall on the left side here. If you look behind me, this is a massive, massive bush that is called a Rose of Sharon. It is not, unfortunately, native to Kentucky, but damn it is it pretty. And the bumblebees really love the pollen because this is in the hibiscus family. This was here when we moved in, but it needed some severe pruning because otherwise it was going to shade out all the flowers underneath it. So I trimmed everything down from about like head level. And so once I trimmed all the branches off, it was like, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put out more flowers. So ever since I pruned it, it has just been gorgeous to look at. And these things will last for about 2 months at least. So it's going to be a really pretty summer. Below it here, this is called an aster. When I say aster, that could mean any kind of plant in the aster family. They have very small white flowers usually, although sometimes it's purple. And they have a very diamond-shaped leaf with a pointy tip, and you can see that it is growing pretty tall. This is only 1 year of growth, and it'll die back in the winter. But because it grows so fast, it actually shades all the other flowers we have here. Otherwise it would get really too hot for the seeds to grow. Not everything we have in the yarden is native, but some of the stuff we have that's non-native I really like because it's fuzzy and its texture and it feels really nice. This is called lamb's ear. And lamb's ear, it grows in damn near anything, but what I really like about it is it's really soft. So if you have a child or someone who really needs something sensory to focus on, I would really recommend lamb's ear because it's a really nice plant that has a very different feel than most others. As we go forward, most of what the 30 different species of flowers, we put them in a couple of years ago, so they're still relatively small. But some of the ones that we have, this is called false sunflower, and they have these gorgeous yellow flowers on the ends of these blooms. Sunflower is not just a giant flower, it's actually an entire species. What I like to say about plants is like a chihuahua and a wolf technically they're both dogs, but you really want the Chihuahua inside your house, right? So with plants, you have sunflowers that can get 8 foot tall, 10 foot tall, and then you also have sunflowers that do well in shade. And so everybody has some specialization that any kind of soil, any kind of shade, you can really start your own garden. This is one of my favorite plants, and it's native. This is called a cup plant, and the reason it's called a cup plant is, as you can see here, the leaves form this little umbrella. And so it traps the rainwater in these little leaves. And so every time it gets a little hot, the bees especially, they can just crawl into these leaves, drink some water, and it keeps them hydrated, because insects also need water. And a lot of times when you just mow and clear cut, you're actually starving not only the bees with the flowers, but you don't have anything for them to drink, so they get dehydrated and pass away. Having water and having shade in your garden is actually a really good thing to have. Behind me, we have some zinnias. Insects love zinnias. They flower a lot and they come in a variety of colors, really beautiful. And besides this very unique pattern of these yellow little star-shaped florets in the middle followed by these pink petals, the way I know it's a zinnia is that zinnias have a very unique leaf. It's very wide at the bottom and going up into a very smooth tip. And so if you see a plant like that, you see that it has this kind of flower, that's how you know it's a zinnia more than likely. This is a different kind of aster. This is called an aromatic aster because asters are so specialized, it's ridiculous. But it has a really nice smell to it, the leaves. The flowers don't actually smell like anything, which is weird. Hopefully this will bloom in late fall and it'll have gorgeous purple blooms. Asters will grow damn near anywhere. They're really pretty and their blooms last a really long time. One thing to consider when you're talking about plants is you have to have stuff that bloom from the start of spring all the way to fall. And it's not going to be the same plant because a bloom usually lasts maybe 2 weeks usually. So when you plan your garden, the more plants that you have, hopefully native, that you can plant, the more snacks your bees have to eat so they don't starve halfway through the season, midsummer, late fall. Because if you don't have food for your insects, the insects are gonna die or move to a different neighborhood. And part of the reason we don't see a lot of wildlife downtown is because there is nothing downtown for them to actually eat. Just something to keep in mind when you're talking about a garden, because this might not look like much, but to a bee, this might be everything. In the background here, this is our compost bin, and the compost, I love it. Compost is so much fun, and what I do every time I have something that I don't use in the kitchen, I just throw it in a bucket, sanitary bucket, and I put it into the bin. And this is black so that it absorbs all the heat, and so it actually helps the stuff, the kitchen scraps, break down into really good soil. So if you want to bring the camera in, and it doesn't smell bad because it's you know, it has a lot of heat already, so it breaks down pretty fast. But a lot of beans so far, a lot of noodles, and you can see we got some apples sticking out. It really, over time, will become, at the very bottom here, dirt. And that dirt will have broken down with a lot of good nutrients into it. And you can see here, I threw out some vegetable soup and I already have some tomatoes sprouting. This is Wingstem. The reason it's called Wingstem is on the stem of the flower, there are these little ribs. And these ribs, they're gonna harden off into like more thick. Right now they're kind of flimsy. But these are called wings. And so it's wings on the stem of a plant, so Wingstem. And these are a late fall kind of plant. We got a mantis, if you want to see a praying mantis. But it's right here. You see it? So this praying mantis, the reason he's there is there's a lot of flies and small bugs that probably buzz around here, so he's going to try to get himself a quick snack. But having insects in your yard, especially if it's a praying mantis, that usually means your ecosystem's pretty healthy, because it's a predatory bug. It can't just survive on nectar. And so by having predators in your, I guess you could call it your yarden ecosystem, it really shows that there's a big food chain in your garden. That's something that you always want to have. Because if you just spray mosquito spray out here because you're worried about mosquitoes, you're actually going to kill all the butterflies that try to land on the flowers too. And so it's something to keep in mind, because we've had a big problem with the HOA trying to mosquito spray. and it ends up killing a lot of the wildlife. We got a whole bunch of fennel here. The way I know it's fennel is it has this weird looking structure here, and it looks almost like a fern. And when you crush it up, it actually smells just like licorice. It's a really interesting plant, but it's starting to go to flower, these little flower buds you see at the top. And once that flower bud gets pollinated, it turns into a seed. You know, it's really exciting because every flower you see here, eventually I can save the seeds from these flowers and use that to actually give to neighbors, give to friends, and start spreading more and more biodiversity in our gardens. The final bit of our tour, this is a raspberry patch. And the raspberries, this actually all originated from one stick, all the way here. I don't know if you can zoom in on it, but that stick was the only thing I planted last year. And because it sent down roots, this whole thing is a raspberry patch now. And I won't be able to get any berries on this because this is first year growth, but next year I'm going to trim all this and I can make cuttings off of the shoots. So if anybody wants raspberries, we're going to be able to sell them. This is our final bit of the tour. This is a wildflower patch. And the reason I have the wildflower patch next to my actual food production is for anything that gets pollinated, I have to have insects. The way to bring a lot of insects, give them food to eat. So we have a lot of native lupine, we have goldenrod, we have ironweed, we have some asters. And once these bloom, that'll coincide with a lot of our agricultural production. And again, year-long blooms mean year-long agriculture. Because once the insects leave, you're not going to have the same yields. And that's something to really keep in mind, especially as the city tries to spend thousands of dollars taxpayer money on mosquito spraying for health. But really the side effect of that is it actually limits the amount of food you can grow in the neighborhood. So something to keep in mind. Alright, thank you so much for watching Beargrass Gardens. I am so excited to show off some of the plants that one can grow in their backyard for blooms, for food. And remember, you don't need a lot of land, you just need a lot of biodiversity. The more biodiversity you have, the more praying mantises you're going to find. Don't forget to subscribe to our Beargrass Thunder YouTube as well as our Patreon account, patreon.com/BeargrassThunder. And if you want to be part of this process to have a cleaner, greener Louisville, follow our page.